Welcome back to American Warrior Radio, sponsored by AVET Project, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL. Glenn, that was a pretty good report we got from Commander Perry regarding the bosun's call. There's a lot going on in our local area Coast Guard.
Yeah, a lot to be proud of for those guys and gals. I know the Coast Guard has a bunch of female members. Because we see them in our office, the ones that have been in the Coast Guard filing claims and
what do you mean? They're not veterans, are they?
Yes, yeah, I got asked that yesterday as we were talking about that. Yes, they are definitely veterans in the Coast Guard. Now, the other part of the question was Merchant Marine, and only some Merchant Mariners are considered veterans that served on certain ships during a certain period of time in World War II, and they have to apply to get that 214 issued to them. So if you think you qualify in that category, come to our office, which is out in Viera, Building Bravo, in the first floor, and we're open Monday through Friday. We're open basically 8 to 4:30, except for Wednesdays and Fridays. We close at noon for customer service, and you know what we're there for. We're the best in the business, and we're there to translate that to you and maximizing your chance to getting your claims approved. So you can call us also at 633-2012.
And if they're out of state?
If you're out of state, 321-633-2012.
It's important to mention that because you've been fielding phone calls from as far away as Indiana and Texas from folks picking up on American Warrior Radio, whether it's online, listening live, or through YouTube or some other way.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. You know, we spend quite a bit of time trying to get the word out, and the feedback always is, we didn't know you guys were even out there. We didn't know you guys existed. So, and you know, that's a problem with government in general, is getting the right kind of advertising out to talk about the services they have. And people don't know about it until they get the information. So you folks out there that are our great listeners, help us get the word out.
Exactly. Tell folks to dial in. All right. It's online, 1300WMEL.com, 1300WMEL.com. You can click on the Archives tab to listen to past episodes. And, of course, you can listen live every Saturday from 11 to noon if you're beyond our terrestrial scope here at WMEL, because we reach into Orange, up into Volusia, and down into Indian River, and of course throughout Brevard County. But the idea is we're here to dispel these myths, to get rid of the rumors, so that you're going to get the actual good information that's true and right. Before I forget, Glenn, we got a little AVET Project prize pack to give away.
All right.
Yeah,
free,
folks.
Free.
That's right. Free, our favorite word here. If you are, what caller should we take? Second caller?
Yeah, second caller.
Second caller to, what's our number?
633.
That's your office number.
631-1300.
All right, second
caller. I'm so happy to give you my office number. 631-1300.
As if you aren't busy enough there at the Brevard County Veterans Service Office. Folks, if you want a terrific AVET Project prize pack, and Pat, can you take a look in that bag? What do we got for him today? The other one, the pretty one that's all dressed up. It's Christmas, so we're going to do a nice little giveaway. Looks like we got a super cool set of Cobra walkie-talkies with the emergency weather radio.
Those Cobra deals are good.
Oh, heck yeah. They're rechargeable. They got a distance of up to, I don't know, miles. Look at that. Look at that. Up to 29 miles in good conditions.
Wow.
So second caller, you're going to get an AVET Project prize pack. If you get off the dime and give us a holler, we'll take your call, and you will be a big winner. We do that occasionally just to let you all know how much we appreciate you listening to American Warrior Radio. But Glenn, like you said, spread the word. This is how it happens. We get the word out there. We're joined by great folks like Commander Perry to share what's going on here locally. And he even touched on some stuff across the nation over in California.
Yeah.
We just encourage you all to support the troops in everything that you do. And it's easy enough. If you're interested, you can go to our Facebook page. And Glenn, you run a credentialed service office where everybody knows what the heck they're talking about and is able to process anything from an original claim to an appeal. But what if somebody lives in South Florida? What can they do?
Well, that is a very good question. You're fortunate in Florida. Florida is one of the few states in our nation that has credentialed service officers in each of the 67 counties in Florida. And what you would have to do if you're down like in the Miami area, we'll just pick that out, is go to the phone book and look, in that case it would be Miami-Dade County, and then under there look for veteran services. Don't go to the V in the white pages because you'll get the federal VA number and you probably won't even get through to them to start with. They're so swamped. And that will get you your local credentialed service officer to help you with your claim, just like we do here. Don't come see us because we're busy enough without taking other counties. But you've got a county rep anywhere in Florida, and that's wonderful.
Exactly, and throughout the United States, because I know we've got listeners in Montana and Vermont and Texas and all over. Get into the county pages and look up a county veteran service office, and you'll be able to work with those folks to introduce your original VA claim or follow-up issues or what have you.
Absolutely. So, you know, in the past shows, especially recently, we've talked quite a bit about Agent Orange and the disabilities that can be caused by exposure to that, and where you were exposed. What we never got to yet is how do you go about filing a claim for one of those disabilities if you had boots on the ground in Vietnam, served in perimeters in Thailand, or were in the Army during a certain period of time on the demilitarized zone. And we want to share a little information with you about that. Those kind of claims, first off, are called, there's about 5 different ways you can get a disability claim filed and get it approved. These, for Agent Orange, are called presumptive disabilities. And
define presumptive. What are we talking about?
Well, presumptive is, I call it a no-brainer. If you've got the right evidence and circumstances, then when you file the claim to the VA, it's going to be approved. The only question is how severe is the problem you have to get the percentage assigned to it. And I even had a gentleman in my office this week, and he was told, this is why you come to credentialed people. You know, the street stuff is not always real great information.
Exactly.
He was told that all he had to do was enroll in the VA clinic, and because his 214 showed that he'd been in Vietnam, he would automatically get the disabilities that they found on him. And I said, well, automatic and VA are not in the same dictionary. So you have to file a claim. Now, what do you need to file a claim? Well, you've got to have evidence. So the first piece of evidence is you got to have a current diagnosis of the problem, whether diabetes type 2, a heart condition, Parkinson's,
lung cancer, prostate cancer.
Yeah, those are some of the more prevalent. But you got to have a medical diagnosis that you submit as evidence. And even if you're getting all your care at the VA, I strongly recommend you go over there and get them to print out the page that has your diagnosis on it.
Otherwise, they have to go back and forth. You know, the regional office is going to say, can you send us this? And then back and forth. Yeah. If you provide it to them right off the bat, they know it's a solid claim.
Yeah, and we know what we know what they've got. We don't know if they got that stuff if you rely on them to go internally even to the VA provider that you're seeing. I like to deal from the deck that I know what's in my hand.
Exactly, and it makes it so much simpler for the rating specialist when they get the case.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're claiming one condition, let's say it's prostate cancer, you went into your outside doctor and they wrote up a treatment note saying, I've diagnosed this this man with prostate cancer, happens to be a veteran. Okay, so he's got that. He comes in with that report. What happens next?
Okay, well, we're going to do the paperwork for you, and we're going to appoint a veterans organization to help you out. And with the information you brought us, we're going to start the claim for you. We're going to get you to sign the appropriate documents. We'll file the claim for you to the VA. If it's late in the month, we'll do probably an informal claim to protect your start date, and fax that over to the claimant representative that we've gotten you to sign for.
Maybe the VFW, American Legion, DAV, one of those organizations.
One of the bigger ones is who we most prevalently deal with. And then we're going to tell you what's going to happen in the claims process. And then the example you're giving, we're going to want a little more information. And what we're going to do is print you off the rating table and say, take this back to your doctor and get them to specifically address how severe your prostate cancer is, or if it's under treatment, what kind of treatment and how long is that treatment going to last? Because while you're under treatment for prostate cancer, you get a temporary 100%, and for a specified period of time after that. And if we're past all that with your prostate cancer and it's kind of in remission right now or whatever, then there's the percent is decided upon the residual problems based on the treatment from your prostate cancer and the prostate cancer itself. And we want more medical evidence, and we'll show you specifically by giving you that rating table what we want. In the case of prostate cancer, oftentimes the rating schedule has to do with how frequently you have to urinate.
Or if you have a loss of your creative organ.
A loss of use of creative organ. And also with prostate cancer, there can be secondary conditions. Prostate cancer may have metastasized, big word for moved, to other parts of your body, other organs, unfortunately.
Exactly.
And then we can file what's called a secondary claim. And that claim is not one that's caused by your military service, but is caused by the disability that's caused by your service. And again, we'll need a doctor to make that connection for us.
Right, and they'll be willing to do that, whether it's a private doc or a VA doc who has a directive from on high in the Veterans Health Administration to help support these claims. So don't sweat that. So they need to have a note saying what the disability is. It needs to be one of the disabilities listed on the Agent Orange exposure list.
Correct.
And your document, your DD-214, showing that you had boots on the ground.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the 214 in most cases is not sufficient by itself to prove that you were in Vietnam, boots on the ground, because it doesn't, some very few say in there in the remarks, in Vietnam from such and such a date to such and such a date. Well, then you're golden with that. If it just says you got the Vietnam Service Medal, the Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, and a couple others, that by itself is not sufficient. And if you can't provide any other proof of having been in Vietnam, then they're going to go to a place called the Joint Records Research Center for military records to prove that you were in Vietnam, because there are people like the people in Thailand, although some now qualify for exposure to Agent Orange, very few, that got those medals too, because they were directly supporting on a daily basis the operations going on in Vietnam, and were awarded Republic of Vietnam campaign medals, Vietnam service medals, and so forth.
Even though they may have never stepped foot.
Even though they may have never set foot in the Republic of Vietnam. So the VA wants it stamped with the good housekeeping seal, if you will, that you in fact were in Vietnam. Now we'll discuss that with you too, because we're going to ask you. You got a copy of your PCS orders? That's your permanent change of station orders that either sent you there or shows that you were coming back from there.
But Glenn, we're talking 40 years ago, sometimes more. So if they haven't gotten a copy of their 201 file, if they don't have their DD-214, my goodness, they need to get it. And
Absolutely.
There's a quick way to do it. You can go to avetproject.org. You click on the button, the tab that says VA Benefits. Halfway down the page, you're going to see a hyperlink that's highlighted. It says eVetRecs, Electronic Veteran Records. You click on that, it's going to redirect you, because they're always changing this darn thing.
Yeah.
But you're eventually going to get to a site where you can order, one-time free issue of all of your service medical records, your 201 file, and a free issue of all your medals, awards, and citations.
Yeah, and we'll help you order that yourself. Now, the VA, under their duty to assist role, has to get that and try and verify it for you, as I was talking about. But you know, I'm not from Missouri, but show me anyway. I'd rather that you get a copy of your personnel records. That's the 201 file, and so we know what's in there and know what the VA should be looking at. Sometimes they don't look at all the right things. They get rushed because they're so far behind is one reason they get rushed.
Yeah.
And then we can see what's in there that supports that you were in the Republic of Vietnam. In addition to that, while we're waiting for those to come after we've ordered them for you and so forth, we're going to ask you to look at your own personal military records and provide us anything that shows you had boots on the ground in the Republic of Vietnam. And that's where I was talking about your orders either going to there or coming back from there. In some cases, the TDY orders that sent you there on a short-term basis and brought you back. And let me tell you something, TDY orders and our TDY travel forms where you fill out to get paid for the TDY
Sure.
are not in your personnel records when you get out of the military. That's something they pull and throw in the trash can. So if you've got them, hallelujah.
Yeah, and it's a real
especially
shame.
if you were the only reason you were in Vietnam was TDY and not a permanent change of station.
Exactly, and it's a real shame because those are the type of documents that solidify the fact you had boots on the ground.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, we've even proved it with some copies of letters that had the APO San Francisco postmark on them that were sent home to a buddy or a parent or
And
your
that's a
current
good
spouse or whatever.
Because buddy statements can help establish that as well.
Absolutely.
I was there, he served next to me, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, because, you know,
They can't dispel it.
Yeah, that's right. And buddy statements can't prove diagnoses of illnesses because they're not qualified. But they can definitely prove something they're qualified to say. And saying I was in the same unit with this guy from June of '68 to June of '69 or whatever. That's good evidence. That's strong evidence.
So we're just kind of we're pushing the ball along here. Because you got to share this information. If you're a Vietnam vet yourself and you're having difficulty, get in to see a credentialed service officer like Glenn or his staff, or somewhere along the line, regardless of the state you're in, you'll get the kind of help you need. Because it's obviously an important issue out there. We have 1,000 hits on a YouTube video of this very issue on American Warrior Radio. So we know it's out there and it's playing hard, and people are looking for right information.
That's right. And part of this, if you also enroll in the VA clinic for VA medical care or VA hospital, depends on where you live and what the case is. But anyway, you enroll for VA health care, and they find out you say you're in Vietnam or you're 214 indicates you probably were in Vietnam. Then there's an Agent Orange registry exam that the VA conducts, and it's a standard exam for everybody that takes it, so that it can show if you have any of the presumptive conditions now, and also it maintains as a permanent record, and if things are added, like the Secretary added heart condition and Parkinson's and some
they're
leukemia,
obligated to notify
they're obligated to notify you that you had some tests that indicate you may be at risk for that and you need to come in. So that's a good thing to do. However, you don't. I had another misinterpretation from this gentleman that was in. He thought you have to get the Agent Orange registry exam before you can file a claim. Not true. You can file the claim without ever doing an Agent Orange registry exam. Because it's based upon the current medical evidence proof as we were talking about previously.
Exactly. So share this information, folks. It's so vital because it's going to make a heck of a difference in the life of the veteran and their family.
Oh, absolutely. And
not just the health care, but we're talking real dollars, Glenn.
Yeah, we're talking real dollars. And some of these, when you're under treatment and then for a specified period of time after that, you can get a temporary 100%, and that's around $2,900 a month, tax-free, for a married veteran.
Right, and we don't want anybody thinking that, oh, gee, this is money better spent somewhere else. No, just set that aside. This is an earned. This is not an entitlement, folks. VA compensation for disabilities is an earned benefit. Think of it like a workers' comp agreement. If you were working on the outside and they sprayed this god-awful chemical that could lead to death later, you're going to have workers' compensation. Well, the military doesn't offer that, so what they do offer through the VA is VA disability compensation.
Yeah, excellent analogy and also excellent point, because I run across a whole heck of a lot of people through the course of doing business in our office who say, I never filed before because I didn't want to take it away from somebody else who's more deserving.
But it's probably too late. If it's been 40 years, man, they can't file a claim,
well,
can
you
they?
just made it, well, you can file a claim, but you made it exponentially worse to try and get it approved because of the evidence requirements that show that it's existed all this time.
Right.
Unless it's one of these presumptives, which is another good point. These presumptives, doesn't matter how long it's been since you're in Vietnam. If you currently get diagnosed with one of those that's on the list,
bada bing, bada boom,
there you're golden.
That's right, because it's presumed you were exposed, and therefore you're going to be entitled to the benefit, but you have to make the move. That's the important takeaway from all this. You got to get involved. You got to get into your county veteran service office or some other credentialed service officer and make the move. What you got there, Glenn?
Okay, well, I'm sure that's of great value to you, and again, the point is, come see a credentialed service officer.
That's right.
To get this done right for you, so you get it approved and you get it done as quick as possible. A couple of other things that have come up, you may not be aware because I haven't seen a lot of advertising on it. There's a 1.7% cost of living allowance coming to increase your service-connected disability payments if you have them.
How in the world are we going to spend all that?
I don't know. It definitely is not keeping up with the cost of living. I don't know why they call these things cost of living increases, but anyway, that also will apply to
portion-controlled cost of living.
Portion-controlled, well put. And that will also apply to Social Security if you're on Social Security, and it will also apply to your military pay if you're a military retiree, even your active duty pay if you're on active duty. A whopping 1.7% raise coming effective 1 December, which means you'll see it, the first check you'll see it in is 1 January.
Yeah, that's the way things work. It's the first of the month following the month you became eligible. No matter what the circumstance is, they save themselves a month of pay.
That's right, and I can't tell you the number of people come in and I say they cheated me out of a month of pay.
First of the month following, and again, it's not right, but it's what Congress did to all of us military veterans.
Yeah, and then the second part of the potpourri is one of the main reasons veterans get into trouble with an overpayment is those who are rated 30% or greater service-connected, or anybody that's on the VA pension program, and for whatever reason they lose their spouse, divorce or death, and they don't ever tell it to the VA, and sometimes the VA doesn't catch up to that piece of information, cross-checking government data and what have you for 3 or 4 years, and then you got a significant debt to pay back, and there's not much you can say except oops. Right, and then work out a repayment plan or something.
Or ask for a waiver.
Yeah, and we will help you ask for a waiver based on financial hardship, which is always the case with a pension claim.
No kidding.
Because you're low income before you're approved in that program anyway.
Right, but even if you've made a big mistake by not informing them, that rule of equity and good conscience can come into play and relieve you of that debt that you truly, earned.
Yeah.
You racked it up.
But you truly may not be able to pay it back now, and we need to show them that.
Exactly. So there's some other things about local. What about that real estate thing?
Oh, yeah, man.
Let's talk about
that,
Big these deal. Taxes.
There's used to be called Amendment 7. Now I guess we'll have to switch and call it Amendment 2. It just passed. That used to be to get access to this discount on your property taxes, you had to have proof that you entered the military and as a resident of Florida, that you're a resident of Florida when you entered the military. The law just changed and said you don't have to have been a resident of Florida when you entered the military.
All right.
So all those people who moved to Florida, I don't know a lot of people who actually are Floridians.
That's true.
All those people who moved here may now be eligible if you're over 65 years old and some of your service-connected disabilities are determined to be combat-related, and you're obviously a homeowner and a Florida resident.
Right.
And this works like this. You get all of the other exemptions that you can get, which is a $5,000 one, which is worth about $100 for service-connected veterans, 10 to 90%.
Every dollar helps.
Then let's say you're 40%. Then 40%, and you have a combat-related disability. Part of that 40%, all of that 40%, then can be approved as a discount. So,
folks, thanks for joining us today on American Warrior Radio. We really appreciate it. We'll be back again with important news and information you can use and guests. We want to say real quick, Indian River Colony Club Support Our Troops Gala on December 30th, 4 to 6. Go to the website, avetproject.org. And as always, Glenn,
don't forget, think of that